Hello, fibromyalgia friends. What's up? We are back for another live stream at the Fibromyalgia Community Conference. Come on in and join us for today's presentations. We're excited to share with you. We have some wonderful guests ahead and a lot of activity going on our channel. So please stay posted for the end of the broadcast, where I'm going to go through more of the itinerary and explain on what's going on. We appreciate everybody tuning in and watching the content so far. Thank you to all our guests for showing their support. And we had a special time warp yesterday presentation from our 2022 guests. We're probably going to do that again because it was a lot of fun and people enjoyed a recap from 2022. So thank you everyone for tuning in. This is brought to you by the Support Fibromyalgia Network and our friends at Team Fibro all around the world. The Support Fibromyalgia Network is a national nonprofit organization focused on patient and medical education, advocacy training, expansion of research, and the introduction of collaborative care into the fibromyalgia community, which includes group health coaching. I am Melissa Tolwar. I am the executive director of the Support Fibromyalgia Network, and I'm also a board certified functional medicine health coach. I'm joined by the awesome co-host Danielle this morning. Danielle, why don't you give a shout out to all our fibromyalgia friends?
Hey everyone, I'm Danielle Patilli. I am in North Carolina and I work with multiple nonprofits. I'm a fibro warrior and I have other rare diseases. Support Fibro is the main nonprofit I work with, and I'm so glad to be here. I also just want to give a shout out real quick to Melissa and congratulate her. So everyone congratulate her for passing her exams.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to take the exams yesterday, everybody. So I had a biochem and a microbiology exam 1. I'm taking accelerated courses to get my prerequisites done for college, and I'll explain more at the end. So they're 5 weeks, 5 weeks only. So exam 1, and I think the 17th, I have to take my final exams for each. So fortunately, I passed. I got my 96%. So I am good to go because I'm proving that I can academically be strong to these institutions. Hello, Cassandra. I see you there. Good morning, Karen. So nice to see you. I know we're global right now, so it might be morning for some people, evening time for our guests as well. So we just appreciate everybody coming on in. Hello, hello. Hi, Crystal. Good to see you. It's so nice to see everybody here. So just come on in, share the broadcast. Be sure to like the broadcast, share with everybody out there so we can generate some more people coming in and learning about the fantastic content that is ahead. So I'm excited to bring on I'm over the moon excited to bring this new guest on with us. And we had a chance to meet Anna at ACR in person. She approached our booth. I was like, the purple. So we're going to have a lot of purpley signatures today, which I'm thrilled about. And there was definitely a special connection there for all that she's done. So I can't wait for all of you to hear the presentation. We're going to have a live Q&A, and I'll try not to nerd out too much on Danielle behind the scenes. But I'm going to bring her up so we can get the presentation started, because I know this is what everybody is waiting for. So Anna is an expert and leader in overcoming chronic pain and illness. She is also the author of the book Chronic, where she details her own battle with chronic pain after suffering from autoimmune illnesses and a bus crash in Indonesia that left her with a crushed spine. After doctors gave up on her at only 25 years old, Anna decided to take her health into her own hands. She developed an app called Pain Freedom, where she helps pain patients recover from pain and improve their physical health. She is also an award-winning public speaker in the healthcare field, has been featured on national TV and radio shows, and is a trailblazer in the field of patient advocacy and medical research. I am thrilled to bring her up to the stage. Let's welcome her up, everybody. 3, 2, hello.
All the way from Oslo, Norway.
Yes, we're excited to have you here with us presenting.
So I love the color scheme. I have purple hair these days. Melissa was saying that she saw me on the Chronic Comeback show and didn't recognize me because I had blonde hair at that point. But we met at ACR, where I traveled all the way from Norway to San Diego in my wheelchair to present my work in patient involvement in medical research. and that
I
was exciting.
know.
And then I met you, and I was like, I'm home. There are other
Yes,
patients here. Yeah,
welcome to the community. So the science background, the patient engagement, patient advocacy, and also this hacking and biohacking. It really resonated with me with what you said. Unfortunately, like doctors sort of told us both that, it's in our own hands. So we had to take our health into our own hands and do what we could and reclaim this sense of health with what we had said. That's why this is an incredible journey. And we're going to share the video interview too with Chronic Comeback. So just to tell everybody, both of us did interviews, and I actually watched Anna's interview with Phil, and I saved it to a playlist when it came out, and I said I need to interview her. So here we are. I just didn't realize it when we met at ACR that you were the same person. But here we are. It's all full circle. So I knew there was synergy here, and I'm excited to have you here with us and present. Do you want to share a little bit about more of the context of the presentation, or should we just get started?
I think I share all the context in the presentation.
Okay.
So I'll just walk through, and then we have hopefully some time to discuss. Like you'll have to tell me when I have 5 minutes left or 10 minutes left.
We will definitely have time to discuss, and this is just the beginning of interviews. So we'll have to bring you on in 2024. We're going to be doing more interviews, and they have to get even nerdier. There's a nerdy broadcast in our future for all of us who love science and want to dive into more research.
I totally see that happening. Hi, Cassandra. Thank you. Okay,
Okay, so let's
you have to bring up my presentation, right? Oh, there I
yeah.
am. Woohoo! Okay.
There you are. And so
Yeah.
what's going to happen here is Danielle and I are going to move to the backstage, but we're still here and we're watching. So if anything happens, we can jump back in, and we'll jump back in closer to the end.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you in the Q&A.
Yes.
Sounds
And
good.
let me know if I think the microphone is working. Okay, so this is me. Hi, I'm Anna Frikselius. I'm from Oslo, Norway. I've also lived in California in my childhood, so I do speak English, American, and I look different on different days. Some days I'm rolling, some days I'm standing and walking, and some days I'm jumping around doing Wu-Tan Kung Fu, which I do also in competition. And many people have problems understanding this, and I often refer them to the spoon theory, whereupon most doctors and researchers just look at me like I'm speaking a foreign language, and I guess in some ways I am, because I'm speaking patient language. And I tried to tell them that, yes, you saw me walking yesterday, but today I'm using my wheelchair because I don't have spoons to walk. And I also realized that I have been holding myself back due to internalized ableism. And please let me know in the chat, like, have you heard about internalized ableism? And have you ever thought about your own potential internalized ableism? This was a game changer for me after being, well, I didn't call myself disabled, but I had an invisible chronic illness that really affected my life and chronic pain for so many years before I heard the term ableism and realized that I was really reducing my. I didn't want to use the wheelchair because I didn't want to look disabled, because I had some internalized ideas about what it meant to be in a wheelchair. And so I was hiding. When I couldn't walk, I would just hide. And this last year, I've been really doing a process on learning more about internalized ableism and how it affects people with chronic invisible illness and chronic pain. And it's been a game changer. So I want to talk more about that. I also sold that into the ACR research committee that we should have a topic, like a talk on that next year. But my story is based on my patient experience, of course, and now Melissa already introduced some of that. I am a patient who has autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune scleroderma. Both of those autoimmune rheumatic diseases, I've had them since my teenage years, but they are in remission and have been in remission for a long time. And the chronic pain I have resulting from those conditions is very similar to fibromyalgia. So if I got a new doctor's appointment now with only the symptoms I have now, I would 100% have the fibromyalgia diagnosis only, because both the RA and the scleroderma is in remission, which is great. And medical-free remission too. It's a natural remission. But I've also suffered, or I don't like to use the word suffer there really, but I had a complex spinal fracture and went through 3 spinal surgeries. And then I was hit by a car, like walking across the street when I could still walk, and got a bad neck injury. And all of this resulted in chronic pain. That whole story is in this book that that was published many years ago, about my story, sort of overcoming. I don't even like the word overcome, because this is stuff I live with, but just the story as a dramatic story was published. And for some strange reason, it was even published by an academic publishing house that thought that my story was of interest to the medical community. And the book also led to a grant from a free speech organization to start a blog about the healthcare system from the patient perspective. This was back in 2010. I also had a blog called 365 Pain-Free Days, where I published one piece of pain relief or one technique for reducing chronic pain every day for 1 year. So 365 days, 365 pain-free tips. It's still up there somewhere in the blogosphere, but it's outdated, of course. And that work actually led me to getting hired as a full-time patient advocate in a big Norwegian patient NGO on the rheumatic field. I was on disability ever since I broke my back, so I did not think that I would ever have a job, which was really sad at the time. Like I thought it was very, very sad to be sort of sidelined already from the age of 20 and said, you can't work, you have all of these conditions. You just, sit there in your wheelchair and here's your disability and here are your pills. Take your pills and be a nice patient. And I did not accept that. So I did everything I could to find out what would help me have better quality of life and less symptoms. Also, I tried all kinds of dietary systems and all this, everything. Have you tried yoga? Yes, I have. Most of us have. And something worked and I went into remission. And of course, it's hard to know exactly what worked, but I do think that for me, dietary change has been a big factor. Through the years, I've become a public speaker in Norway, speaking on all topics of health and patient engagement, and won prizes for my talks. And now I am working to change medical research, not just one project at a time, but to change the whole topic of medical research from being centered on the pharmaceuticals to being more centered on prevention. Because what we need is to find the underlying mechanisms of diseases like fibromyalgia, myalgic encephalitis, of course, rheumatoid arthritis, but there is so much research done there, like they're way ahead, so that these illnesses can be prevented instead of putting us on heavy meds for the rest of our lives. So that's my passion, and that's also my full-time job. And now I need somebody to set a timer for 5 minutes. I can actually set a timer, because when I start talking about my patient history, there is a risk of me spending too much time on that. But it all started a long time ago in the country of Indonesia. I was living in Bandung, Indonesia, actually in a house facing the rice terraces like this. I went there on a gap year after finishing high school in Norway, because I had by then developed both scleroderma and rheumatoid arthritis, and the doctors just wanted me to go on methotrexate, cell poisoning, and prednisone for the rest of my life, and said, this is hopeless, there's nothing we can do. And instead I went there, but I was unlucky and happened to be in a bus crash, where I'd lived there for 10 months actually before the bus crash happened, but that broke my spine. And breaking your spine in a developing country is, it's an adventure that I don't wish on anyone. So Please don't try this at home, kids, is what I often say when I talk about my patient experience. I was lucky that the accident happened close to a hospital that actually had relatively like clean and good conditions, but it was very dramatic, and I was extremely fortunate to survive and to be transported home to Norway due to I had this really cheap travel insurance that for some reason included support to have me transported home to Norway, where I underwent 3 major spine surgeries in over a few years. And open back surgeries, spinal fusions, that kind of thing. At this point in time, I was 22 years old. And after the spinal fusions, I had chronic pain. And I had chronic pain from the rheumatoid arthritis, and I had chronic pain from the back injury and the spinal fusions. I was partly paralyzed in my left leg, but not completely. And they seemed to be quite happy with me having chronic pain for the rest of my life. And that's when I found out that the healthcare system can be amazing when it comes to acute care, like the surgeries I got and like saving lives. There was an amazing system for taking care of people like me in the beginning. But once pain becomes chronic, you're basically left to your own devices. At that time, we were given opioids, but that was all. Like, you got opioids, and then at a certain point, the doctor said, "Oh, you can't use opioids anymore. Those aren't good for you." But that was the only care that was available at that time. And I had to learn pain relief on my own, and to have a life, because as you all probably know, if you've been on opioids and that's the only thing you get, like, they don't work for long. Like, they work for a while and then they don't work anymore. And I started doing reading everything I could about chronic pain, and I was lucky to meet a pain specialist, just yeah, some kind of coincidence, who could explain to me what actually happens in your nervous system when you have pain in the same part of your body for months and years at a time. None of the doctors back home in Norway had explained this to me. But as I was walking actually the Camino to Santiago de Compostela, which was like my main healthy goal, I met an anesthesiologist, a chronic pain specialist who was burnt out, and he explained this to me. So I came back with a completely new understanding of what was happening in my body, and I started changing the way I lived with my pain. And I also learned project management techniques, which I combined with what I'd learned about chronic pain, and it really changed everything. And what I'm gonna do now for the rest of the talk is I'm gonna lead you through my best tools. Like, first, the background for the tools. This was my story. I managed to keep it under 5 minutes. Yay! And now I'm gonna share what I learned that really changed everything for me when it came to my chronic pain, and has led to me being able to have an active life despite the pain, or with the pain. And then I'm going to do an exercise with y'all. Like, we're going to try one of the exercises that I teach people I coach. And at the end, we should have time for Q&A. So the nervous system, right? That's where the pain usually is and gets stuck. Like, even if you cut your hand, or in this case, I put a pin on there. Like, if you hurt yourself with a sharp pin in your finger, it hurts, and signals are sent from your finger, wherever you prick yourself, up to your brain, and the brain interprets that signal. And that's okay when it's acute pain, when it's something that happens once. But when it happens again and again, it changes the nervous system. And our brain is all the time working to interpret what we're experiencing. And if I prick myself with something sharp on my finger, not just once, but every day for a month, like, that nerve is going to become super sensitized. It's being retrained to increase the volume of the pain. The more I have pain in one part of my body, the more those nerve signals travel from wherever I'm hurting up to my brain, the wider that pain gate is going to be to my brain, and the volume will sort of go up on the pain, and it will feel more and more intense, even if the cause is the same. And when it comes to causes of pain, I mean, sometimes the cause is here, like you injure yourself, you hurt yourself on something sharp, but often it's an illness, an underlying illness, like what we think fibromyalgia is, but the researchers haven't landed completely on what they think it is yet. But there's something going on a molecular level, at a cellular level, that is causing persistent pain, maybe some kind of inflammation process. And whatever the reason behind the pain is, if it's repeated again and again, day after day, and these signals are sent to the brain, what happens is that each time the pain signal is sent up to the brain, an alarm goes off, and it's like this fire alarm in your house that just go wah, 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 wah. Yeah, opioid-induced hyperalgesia. Oof, yeah, Cassandra, that is really, really horrible. And it, like, being on opiates for a long time will do the same thing as having pain over and over and over and over again. Your entire nervous system gets sensitized, so the same cause of pain will feel stronger and stronger and stronger. That's because of the sensitization of the nervous system. Basically, your nervous system is learning and adapting and changing to what it's being exposed to. And every time you have pain, this alarm goes off, and then that cable, in a way, like the wire between your body and your brain's pain processing center, is being built out, like from a dial-up modem connection to a high-speed broadband connection. And that's when the pain gremlins enter the picture. That's what I call them. That's what it feels like they're chewing on my nerve fibers. Basically, when I have a bad pain day, I go through periods with strong pain, and then if I'm lucky, I have longer periods with low pain. I can have days, and almost sometimes I can have weeks with zero pain or next to no pain, in the summer especially. And then I can have months where I'm completely horizontal bedbound with very strong pain. And the doctors can't tell the difference, and they're like, "Oh, your lab results are normal." And I'm like, "Yeah, it doesn't feel normal." So hi, Jack. Nice to see you, or in the chat. So the pain gremlins, like when I have strong pain, the pain gremlins will come and chew on my nerve fibers, but also on my thought processes. Like I'll hear them, like that. It's really hard to keep negative thoughts at bay when you have strong pain over time. It also affects, of course, your mood. And I just mentioned how the nervous system gets sensitized through repetition, just like when we were learning to ride a bike as children. In the beginning, it was super hard. And then as you do something again and again and again, it gets easier and easier and easier. Our nervous system is constantly changing and learning and growing. And that's neuroplasticity was a game changer for me when I understood that having all this pain, specifically in my back where I've had the spinal fusions, is thanks, Cassandra. These pain signals were traveling, and it's like the gateway was becoming more and more open, and the volume was being pulled up on the actual pain signal. So now I've talked about the problem. Let's start talking about looking at some visual modules, and for how to deal with this. I love you writing in the chat, because then I know I'm among friends, because you are people who understand. And exactly, we get really tired, sometimes out of nowhere. And like now, when I work as a patient researcher with top researchers in pain and rheumatological research specifically, and I ask them, like, why does this happen? Like, why does the pain fluctuate so much? Why can I be like, jumping around with my kung fu sword one day, and another day I'm bedbound and I can't even walk to the bathroom? Like, how can that be the same person? And how can my lab results be normal? And they will be like, well, the biopsychosocial paradigm says that maybe, you're just stressed. And I'm like, really, I don't feel any different from one day to another. And some researchers have been saying, Jack, that the fatigue is caused by the pain. Like if you manage to treat the pain, the fatigue goes away. I don't know if that's true when you have autoimmunity. I think there's going to be fatigue anyway, because that is very draining. So let's talk about how to break the pain spiral. Often, like we get pain kind of draws you in when you have it, but I like to use visual models to make it easier to sort of make sense of the kind of senseless experience of having pain. Yes, Darlene, I know how that feels with the pain gremlins. Jack, do you have fibromyalgia? Please write in the chat. Back pain? Yeah. So pain in itself, like we focus on that one symptom, but there are many other symptoms that that sort of correlate with the pain and get increased by the pain, and all of these work on each other and increase each other. So it's kind of a circle here, like the pain circle, where they, if we don't manage to slow it down, it starts spiraling and spiraling downwards. So just having pain will lead to a biological stress response. Like this is not, we're not talking psychological stress even yet, even though that often happens too. Hey, Becky. What happens, like when the body sends signals to your brain that, ouch, I am in pain. There's something dangerous here. Maybe there's a bear or a gremlin chewing my leg or my back. Like that alarm goes off, that causes a biological stress reaction. Like your adrenal glands will free lots of stress hormones. And those stress hormones, they have side effects. Like they will tense your muscles, basically to make sure that you don't lose blood and that you're alert. Your muscles will tense from having these stress hormones. And having stress hormones will disturb your sleep. Like it'll make it really difficult to sleep. And of course, when you have tense muscles, you're stressed, you have pain, and you don't sleep well, you're more worried. All of these things lead to fatigue, and the pain also gives your brain will tell you to hide, and basically, it's like this animal response. Like if an animal is hurt, it will run away and hide, right? And I'm just reading the chat in between. Hi, Big Red. Pain gremlins. Yep, that term is on. And Karen, maybe you missed the start here. I also have arthritis, so you have autoimmune. Yep. Illness. Well, pain will tell your reptilian brain, your survival brain, that you have to hide and stay passive. Like don't move, basically, is one of the signals that the pain will send. So becoming more passive is completely natural, of course, because of the fatigue, and you have less sleep, and you have tense muscle, you have all of this stress. All of that leads to a downward spiral. And you get deconditioned too by being more passive, right? So for each round through the pain spiral, you end up a little bit further down before. And that's what was happening to me after these spine surgeries and with the rheumatoid arthritis and chronic pain. That even like I got some opioids, but most of it was untreated. Every time like I was in one of these pain loops, I would lose conditioning and I would manage to do less than before. Even though I was only 21 when this started, I was very, very soon so disabled that I could hardly function at all. And this downward spiral can be really hard to explain to the doctors. Like good doctors will understand this, but sorry, good doctors are few and far between when it comes to chronic pain. And the good news is, or what I learned through what I learned about chronic pain and neuroscience specifically, is that it's possible to break the cycle at any one of those stages. So if you visualize that you have, I look at it sort of like a break, a triangle break that I just sort of manage to put in between, for example, the pain and the stress response. I find it easiest to interrupt the pain cycle right there. But anywhere in this cycle where you have things you can do that help will stop the pain from spiraling out of control. So finding whatever ways you can to put a wedge in between one symptom and the next one will help reduce the pain overall. Like it will reduce your complete pain level. Cassandra, the fascia is so interesting. This is so interesting. Yeah. Oh, I love the chat. How do we cope with the pain? Yep. That's what we're talking about, Becky. That's what we're talking about. How we cope with our chronic pain. So breaking the spiral by finding ways, like, what can you do that helps when you're worried? What can you do that helps to get better quality of sleep? What can you do that helps tense muscles? What can you do to reduce biological stress, the stress response in your body? And of course, what can you do to reduce pain? But often we get so snowed in on the pain alone that we forget all these other factors that are increasing the pain. It might be easier to work on some of these other factors, and that will reduce the pain. And then, of course, when you go to the doctor, they'll ask you, on a scale from 0 to 10, how bad is your pain? And I used to hate this question. Anybody else here hate the pain scale? It just sort of feels inadequate. I do think it feels inadequate to describe the experience of living in constant severe pain. But I did understand that it was important to have, after many years with strong pain, I realized that it was important to have some kind of terminology to discuss this with my doctors. And I decided to make my own version of the pain scale that's slightly friendlier. And I use emojis in my pain scale now. And I also include fatigue to some extent, because for me, it's not just the pain anymore. It's both the pain and the fatigue. It can go up and down. It varies over time. I have good days and bad days, and good months and bad months, and good years and bad years. Okay, sorry, but I've had pain for over 25 years. And coming from being completely bedbound, completely disabled, and basically left to rot in a hospital bed, to now being a full-time working published author, mother of 2, active in my community, and now running my own business with my Pain Freedom app. Yeah, you do want to laugh when the doctor uses it. So this pain scale with the emojis, I actually link it to what I can do at each stage instead of like just putting a number on it. And I will explain this in what I call the traffic light model. Because I added the factor of time, and then it becomes a graph. So you see the numbers from 0 to 10 on the side of the graph with the emojis. And the Y line here is time. Oops. Oh, yeah. It'll come in the next slide. This is the basis for the traffic light model. So look at it this way. We have the pain level, and we have the timeline, and my pain can change. So if we were live now, I'd be drawing on this. Hello, welcome, Sharon. Hi, Michelle. So this is the green zone. This is an illustration of the green zone. I put colors on this to illustrate what life is like and what I can do in each of these different zones. Because for me, depending on the severity of my pain on any given day, I can either do quite a lot of stuff or I cannot do anything at all. And as I was saying, there are good days and bad days, and good stages, phases, and good and bad phases. So when I'm in the green zone, I have pain at around like 0 to 3 on the pain scale. I may feel some discomfort, but I'm basically able to do lots of stuff. I can walk, I can work, I can stand, I can even dance and be active with hobbies. That's life in the green zone. And for me, that's kind of a goal all the time. Like my goal is to do things that will lead me, like reduce my symptoms, both of the arthritis and the back pain and the chronic pain, reduce my symptoms to where I can live my life in the green zone. Because life feels great there. But for many fibromyalgia patients and for many chronic pain patients, this place, the green zones, just seems like a fictional utopia. Like, what are you talking about? I don't think I've ever experienced the green zone. But then you have to dream of a time in your life where you've actually been healthy enough to do what you want, at least for a day. That's the green zone. And the yellow zone is when you have pain and discomfort, maybe significant pain at some times, like you're definitely feeling it, but you can do some things. Like you can work a little, you can sit in front of your computer, maybe you can do housework or go for a walk, maybe meet some friends. Like you can function in the yellow zone, but yeah, you can maybe even exercise in the yellow zone. It's possible to have a good life in the yellow zone. I'd like to say that. This is all part of the traffic light model. So when I'm in the yellow zone, I can work most days and I can do light housework. Like I have a flexible office job as a patient advocate. That's what makes it possible for me to work. I would not be able to work like with store hours or anything being on my feet. But I can maintain basic family routines, take care of my kids, and maybe even have some energy for hobbies when I'm in the yellow zone. And then there's the red zone, and I've actually divided the red zone into two, so it's more like orange and red, but all of this to me is the red zone. And it's when you have pain over 6, at least for me, it's pain over 6 on the pain scale, where and I sort of define that as where the pain is so strong I can't push it away. I can't distract myself, like it's taking over my thought processes. At that point, uh, basically, I have to stop everything I'm doing. And that's why I call it the red zone, because it's the traffic light, the red traffic light, right? It's like, red, stop what you're doing. Like, I am usually bedbound when I'm in the red zone. I spend a lot of time resting during winter here in Scandinavia, where it's super, super cold, and my arthritis doesn't like the cold. So in the red zone, pain and just sort of surviving, taking meds, doing whatever, like there'll be always be fatigue. When I have pain, I always have fatigue afterwards. Yes, Becky, I would love to explain this in a group for fibro. I will get to how I use this to help pain patients. But this is something I made myself to help me as a pain patient have an active life. So in the red zone, I'm barely existing, and just meeting basic needs for self care and taking care of my closest family, and maybe following up on medical treatment. And that takes all the energy I have. And I used to spend a lot of time in the red zone, like before I made the system that I called health mastery or hacking my health. I used to spend a lot of time in the red zone. And then I learned that we need different tools when we're in the different zones, and I can do different things in the different zones. So when I'm in the red zone, there are still healthy choices I can make every day. There are still small things I can do that will help reduce my pain and reduce my symptoms, so that I will gradually, maybe, or sometimes it's fast. When I do the right things when I'm in the red zone, I'll get to the yellow zone. And when I do the right things when I'm in the yellow zones and maybe have a little bit of luck and maybe have some medical treatment, at least for my autoimmune arthritis needs some medical treatment, I might make it to the green zone. And then what I've realized is when I keep doing the things that work, I spend less and less time in the red zone, more and more time in the yellow and green zone, where I can actually have a great life. So, what is important to remember is that there is no miracle cure for chronic pain. I know we all want one, and the doctors want one too. There is no miracle cure for chronic pain, because if you have had chronic pain or pain in the same part of your body for more than 3 months, your nervous system has been changed. Like, this is new in the ICD-11 that was only published, was it last year? Yeah. The new WHO manual for the diagnostic criteria lists chronic pain in a new way. This is very relevant to all of us, and it's finally taking into account how the nervous system is changed when you have pain over time to increase that pain. So we have to think in a completely different way with pain that lasts over time than for pain that is acute and lasting only for a short while. And the journey with chronic pain from living in the red zone or living in the red and yellow zone mostly to getting to the yellow and green zone and maybe being in the green zone, you take that journey one step at a time. And I love that metaphor. It's something I learned on the Camino to Santiago de Compostela, because after being bedbound for many years and having physical therapists that taught me I should be training just to be able to, walk 100 meters, I did something crazy and bought a one-way ticket to Spain, and I started walking the Camino to Santiago, and I managed to do that. And I shared how I met a pain doctor on the way. All of this is in the book. That is only in Norwegian. It's not in English, so sorry about that. But it has to be done one step at a time. That was the Camino to Santiago too. Like, how do you get to Santiago de Compostela when you can hardly walk? You walk one step at a time. You put one foot in front of the other. And so, yeah, you calm down the nervous system through multiple different modalities, as Cassandra is saying in the chat, by doing one exercise, like one nervous system exercise at a time, one healthy day at a time, like one small, whether it's taking the right supplements, like what works for you. The doctors very often, like, they will have a part of the picture, but they're so specialized that very few doctors manage to see the whole picture of what works in your life. You're the one who has to make this picture and find out what are the small steps I can take to reduce my pain over time so I can climb out of the red zone and spend more and more time in the yellow zone and hopefully also the green zone. So that's the traffic light model in short form. And when I have pain, like high pain, low energy, so fatigue and pain, I try to remind myself to prioritize activities that give me joy. Yeah, Michelle will have to learn Norwegian. I want to get it translated to English. Like, I should totally have this published on Amazon. I think it's possible to have AI do translations now. Like, maybe I can do that. I don't know. It's an idea. But like, no matter how sick I am, like, and at times I am, yes, still very ill and bedbound, I try to remind myself through the muttering of the pain gremlins to prioritize activities that give me joy, because that's the only way up. Like, I have to prioritize activities that give me joy. It can't be housework that pulls me out of bed when I have 7, 8, 9, 10, well, pain. Like, that's not going to pull me out of bed, and it's just going to make it worse. So and that's how I get into this positive circle, where joy, I focus on things that bring me joy, and that gives me energy. And I use that energy to do something meaningful, like maybe spending time with friends and family, like going outside in nature, and then I really prioritize rest. Like, that top athletes, they have rest strategies. And I think that us chronic pain patients, we're like top athletes in a way. It's just our sport is surviving chronic illness and chronic pain. But when I rest and prioritize things that give me joy and energy, I also have energy for my hobbies, and that builds my stamina. Like, being more active builds my stamina, which gives me more energy to invest into things that give me joy. So it becomes a positive spiral. And let's try this together now. So I'm gonna lead us through an exercise that will give you a taste of this method in practice, and then I'll show you where you can download an app that will, for free, that will give you these tools for using at home, because we have to train it. Like, it's not done in one sitting, but I'll teach you the exercise. So we're gonna do the pain buster right now, and you don't have to read this because I'm gonna explain it. You can actually close your eyes and just listen to my voice, and I'm gonna explain exactly what we're going to do. So just try to sit or lay down comfortably, and you can move your body gently from side to side. Just sort of wiggle your body to connect with it, so you're not all up in your head, but you're like connected to your body. And if you're feeling any pain or discomfort right now, I want you to tell your brain that the pain is not dangerous. And I'm going to give you a little mantra to tell your brain. I usually say, "Thank you, brain, for protecting me, but this pain is not dangerous." And when I say that, I'm allowing my brain to turn off that fire alarm that's been blaring in the background. So I repeat it again. "Thank you, brain, for protecting me, but this pain is not dangerous." Repeat this in your own words. "Thank you, brain, for protecting me. This pain is not dangerous." And then I want you to cross your arms across your chest like this. And you can pat your shoulders a bit. And it's like you're giving yourself a butterfly hug. And stroke your hands gently up and down your upper arms. So this is a somatic exercise. And it's helping you reconnect while it's making your left brain hemisphere and your right brain hemisphere collaborate. And it's activating a different sensory system that is actually now reducing the bandwidth to your pain signals. So keep stroking your hands on your upper arms, your shoulders, and start breathing in deeply through your nose. And we're going to breathe in deeply through our nose, counting to 4. And then we're going to hold to 4. I'm counting. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And keep stroking. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4. This is box breathing. You've probably tried it before. We're going to do it again. And next time we breathe out, we're going to hum to activate the vagus nerve, which also gives the brain a signal of safety. So this is biohacking. So breathe in while you're stroking with a butterfly hug. You're stroking your shoulders. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out and hum. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. A slightly easier version that you can do also if you're like sitting in a meeting is to stroke the skin on your underarm. So I'm using the fingers of actually what's best is to use the fingers on your least dominant hand. So for me, that's the left hand. And I stroke the skin on my right arm, which is quite sensitive. And then I do the box breathing. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hold. 2, 3, 4. And breathe out. While humming. If you do this for 3 minutes, and I usually set a timer for 3 minutes and do this, it really lowers the volume of the pain. And of course, it's not taking away the reasons of the pain, but it's retraining your nervous system. So doing the pain buster every time the pain increases over like 5, 6, or basically when you feel a hike in the pain, like when it's getting stronger, stop what you're doing and do the pain buster to start retraining your nervous system to tell your brain it's not dangerous and activate other parts of your nervous system to really lower the volume of the pain. That's what this exercise does. Right, that was a pain buster. And that's what we say. "Thank you, brain, for protecting me, but this pain is not dangerous." And we repeat that. And I try to do that, like to keep doing these exercises in all the different zones. Like this one works in the red zone, yellow zone, and the green zone. But of course, when I'm in the green zone, every time I'm in the green zone, I think I'm cured forever. And I'm like, the doctors were wrong. My disease is cured. I'm healthy forever. And then like 2 days later, I'm crashing again. But it's wonderful when I'm in the green zone. So I've gotten a little bit, what can I say, disappointed with the medical science and doctors. So because medical research moves so slowly, it takes 17 years from when they have a breakthrough until treatment is maybe available to the patient, and often at exorbitant costs. So instead of waiting for the doctors to use this new neuroscience that is really changing the way we understand chronic pain, and wait 17 years for them to do something about it, I decided to do something immediately to help other chronic pain patients, and I made an app. And I created the 30 Days to Pain Freedom, which is an online course delivered in an app, combining these practical exercises with science-based techniques that helps you rewire your nervous system based on where you are in the traffic light model, like which zone you're in. And this app is really simple and innovative. It's made for patients by patients, and it's science-based. It has a fun design, and you can sign up today. I think I have a link here. Yeah, I have a link. So you should be able to just like take up your phone, and if you have an Apple phone, like an iPhone, you can use the App Store, and Google Play is the one on the right. And the app is completely free. And has those basic exercises. I'm working on making a bigger version with more support that sort of leads you through the exercises. But that's going to take me a few months to get it done. And in the meantime, the whole course that's on there is free. So feel free to download that. We are in the process of recruiting a researcher. There are many researchers who want to test this and see if it works specifically on fibromyalgia patients. So I'll let you know if we manage to do that. So yeah, give it a try, download today. And if you want to stay in touch with me, sign up to my newsletter, which is here on this QR code. Dang, I really hope these QR codes work, because this is new for me to stream on StreamYard. And that was my presentation, so I'm done. Are there any questions? We have time for some chatting, I think.
Yeah, we do have a few minutes. I know, Trudy is in the green room, but she's getting set up too for everyone out there, and we'll get to some of this Q&A. There's so much to this presentation. We have to bring you back. We will be sharing links for all of this in the description of the video, so everyone can access the application and be able to connect with you, because I have a huge feeling that we can manage pain together and help like global, I don't want to say global domination because that sounds terrible, but like all over the world. I got thoroughly excited, just like everybody else in the chat. And so
Awesome.
Nicole said the QR codes are working. So we're having people test and download. That was really good and knowledgeable right there. So
Thank you. Yeah, if the doctors listen more to the patients, maybe they'd be researching stuff that works. I don't know. It seems to be taking them forever to even take fibromyalgia seriously, which I get very angry about.
And Danielle was excited too. She has a question for you, I think, coming in.
Well, I just wanted to ask now, looking back at your life, how do you feel your mindset has changed throughout the journey, being healthy to chronically ill and then becoming such a passionate advocate?
Like, I think I've always been a quite positive person, but the experience of being sort of abandoned with my chronic pain, sort of given up and treated quite badly, that definitely made me really negative for quite a while. And like, I was focused on, basically I had to focus on what didn't work, because in order to get the disability benefits, you have to be really, really, really sick. And I felt that that was a downward spiral, like to be sick enough to get that payment and the treatment, I had to focus on the negative. So for me, when I started setting healthy goals, that changed things for me. Like, I started dreaming about things I wanted to do and make a healthy goal. Like the walk, of course, the walk to Santiago, that was crazy. But before that, I had smaller goals, like just like going for a walk in nature, or going horseback riding again, or like doing stuff like riding a motorcycle. I've always loved adrenaline. And then there were always ways to make that happen. Even like maybe a friend could take me on a short trip, like just 10 minutes on a motorbike or horseback, and I would have that experience, and it would really boost my energy level. It would boost my mood. It would give me so much joy, and then that would propel me to work in a way to get slightly healthier. So yeah.
That's a great way to look at things. I appreciate everything you do, and you're just such a passionate advocate. Do you have any advice for other advocates and like if they're just getting started in patient advocacy and if they want to become like you?
Well, really connect to networks, like because alone, like we are stronger together. It's this is not something we should try to do alone. Connect to organizations and collaborate. And then there are really good systems. Like when I wanted to change medical research, first I was like just knocking on all the doors and writing books and blogs and being angry. But when I started listening to what was already done, I found out that there were systems and frameworks that I could work with and organizations I could collaborate with and get so much more done. So that was the game changer for me. Like stop being that sort of lonely hero, blogger, angry person ranting on your own and start collaborating.
Yeah, that makes sense. I downloaded your app already. I started using it. Could you tell everyone a little bit more about your app just briefly and like the different modalities? Because I just appreciate that it's not just like one quick thing and you can like go back and forth and you don't have to just like stay in one video and like constantly just go through like 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you just give a little brief, I know you
Yeah,
kind of did, but just a brief explanation, the
I'll
different
try.
benefits of it?
I'm really glad you like it because I'm making it even much better. And then I'm a bit of a perfectionist. But the deal is like you have to know the neuroscience behind what's happening with your body and brain to break the pain spiral. So I explain that first in the app. So it's like, of course, there's a link to my story, but you don't need to know my story. It's just sort of my background. So I explain the neuroscience and neuroplasticity and everything, and then I teach the thing about the traffic light model, like what pain zone are you in, and then there are exercises for the different zones. So when you're in the red zone, do these exercises, and you can go in and do just a 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute, whatever. When you're in the yellow zone, do these exercises, and there's medi yoga, there's qigong. I do a lot of qigong, of course, being a kung fu athlete elite. I do compete. I did say that already. That was my healthy goal for this year was to compete in kung fu, and I did that just a month ago, and that was crazy. Nobody thought it was possible.
That's awesome. That's incredible.
And those
I love that you have different, like you don't have to just do one of those. You have different options for people. And I really appreciate that.
I'm going to keep expanding it too. So there's something for everyone. And also, I'm adding a function that sort of guides you through it day by day. But that is going to be it is going to be a paid version. But for people who are on disability benefit, I will always have a grant, like grant application where you can get it for free if you have low income due to chronic pain. Because this is for the patients, by the patients. And yeah, I want to help as many people as possible.
I love your, I think a lot of people related to your pain chart. And we had someone else on here talking about a pain journal. And I feel like we just need to get a bunch of patient advocates together so we could create a new way for our pain to be measured, because having patients do that, like we just need to come up with a perfect way for doctors to use, because the pain scale, I think everyone here is like, yeah, we don't need the pain scale. Your chart, we have a pain journal, we can make it happen. So let's get together and make that happen.
Yeah, let's make it happen. We're definitely going to have some future collaboration. So
Yes.
thank you for letting me come and share my passion for helping pain patients, and connect any way you want to, and I'll be hanging out for the next part.
Well, it was tremendous having you join us today. I know I have 100 questions to ask you because there's so much relatability. And as you were going through your slide deck as well, just with the different zones and kind of what we talk about health coaching and the wellness continuum. So, getting people to face towards wellness, you might be going up and down the scale. But I love the vision and the visual aspects that you've added. So there's going to be definitely some more conversation in the future. We'll get the application shared with other people, more collaboration in that area, more aspects of coaching and hacking. As a biohacker who's intrigued by this, we'll definitely have to dig in, talk more about science, especially mitochondria. Everybody get ready for that.
Ooh.
Well, because I saw people talking about the fatigue and pain component, and there's so much to that. So we'll dive in. We'll get nerdy with the science.
And I
I
just
look
wanted to
forward
show
to it.
you real quick, the shirt that I happen to wear today is my spoon shirt.
Ah,
I wear this to doctor's
and
offices
it's
when I know that
purple.
yeah.
Can you tell it's my favorite color?
Well, me too.
Danielle always has cool shirts, and I'm noticing from all your slides, Anna, and actually meeting you in person too, you have cool shirts as well. And again, we're gonna keep sharing information on her, and she has this fantastic profile picture, which I can't share over our faces at the moment. But you will return in 2024 to meet everybody out here. We thank you so much for your time today and appreciate you. We'll dive into research. I know we have Trudy backstage, so we're going to take a short break, everybody, and we'll get Trudy all set up for everyone out here. So thank you, Anna, so
Thank you.
much.
Bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so Danielle and I, we're going to come back. We're going to remove ourselves. We're going to get everybody set up. So take a short break, get some water, use the restroom, and come back in here for Trudy's presentation. So let's go backstage, Danielle. And we'll be right back. Hello, hello, fibromyalgia friends. Please come on back. This was a short break. We're excited for our next guest to present. Gonna put us back on the stage, Danielle, so we can introduce our next guest. We're back in here for everything. So thank you. We just had to take a short pause, but come back in. We have another fabulous presentation here. And I'm thrilled to be able to share this presentation with everyone and have Trudy joining us. I know there's going to be, again, I keep saying this in 2024, but we're a community rallying and collaborating together. So hearing from voices all over the world, it's important. And let's start collaborating more in expanding research for fibromyalgia, expanding medical education for fibromyalgia. And that's why it's important we collaborate with organizations like the Fibromyalgia Association of Canada. And Trudy is here representing, and I love their vision and their mission to bring together, build a unified national voice to advocate for fibromyalgia, for increased awareness, research, education, funding, and improve the quality of life of Canadians with fibromyalgia. It's a unified voice, improving the quality of life for all of fibromyalgia patients out there. So we look forward to hearing her. Let's bring her on stage so we can have her share with you more information. Hello, Trudy. How are you?
Hi, Melissa. I'm great. Thank you for inviting me.
We're excited to have you representing to the organization, the Fibromyalgia Association of Canada. Welcome to all. I see Maggie's in the chat too already. Fibro Nerds United.
Hi, Maggie.
And you just finished up a presentation just before, so you're very busy. And I love the content that you're sharing too on social media. We'll make sure that everybody has the links to follow all of your accounts on social media. You share a lot of research, which we both nerd out about all the time. There's ways to participate in research. And we're going to get more into this with the presentation that you have. And I know this is something of passion of yours.
Yes, it is. It is definitely one of my passions and something that I think is so very important because research doesn't count unless it's relevant to the people it's supposed to be important to. So, and a lot of research dollars get wasted because the research just isn't relevant.
Well, I'm glad you said that and not me, because sometimes I get in trouble for saying that over here in the States. We know that all the research makes a difference, but we see a lot of repetitive research. So we're trying to diversify it. And again, like you mentioned, it's just I can't explain it enough, but I'm glad you said it. You're really eloquent with how you talk about it. So this is why we have you presenting when it comes to that. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to pull up your slides to the stage and we'll begin with the presentation. And please, and everybody out there watching, definitely feel free to share comments, ask questions. We'll have some more Q&A at the end. Here you go. Making research stronger, partnering with patients in research. I love it.
I'm
Trudy,
looking forward to this.
Trudy, this is definitely, you know us as the nerds are here. We love our science. Danielle is another science enthusiast. We're going to be doing a lot. We need to do more and come stronger with the research component. So Trudy, what's going to happen next is I'm going to move backstage. Danielle and I will move backstage. We'll let you have the floor to give your presentation, but we're right here if you need us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Danielle, let's do our disappearing act.
So, hello, everyone. As Melissa said, my name is Trudy Flynn, and I am the chair of the Board of Directors of Fibromyalgia Association Canada, or FAC as we like to call it. And I'm also a patient partner in research. I would like to thank the Fibromyalgia Community Conference for asking me to present today. I have two passions in my life besides my family and friends, and those are Fibromyalgia Association Canada and patient-oriented research. At first, I kept these two passions in separate spaces, but more and more they are becoming intertwined. I live just outside Halifax, Nova Scotia in Canada, near the famous landmark of Peggy's Cove, and you'll see a picture of Peggy's Cove on my next slide. I have been a patient partner since 2014, and I enjoy it every year because of the advancements that are being made in patient-oriented research. I'll be using both the terms patient engagement and patient-oriented research interchangeably during this presentation. I volunteer my time with the CIHR, which is the Canadian Institute of Health Research, which is equivalent to the NIH in the United States, as a patient engagement research ambassador, or PARA, as we call it, both promoting and working on patient-oriented research. I also volunteer with the Maritime Spore Support Unit, or the MSSU, as it is called. This is similar to the CIHR, but it's more on a provincial level. So I am the co-chair at the MSSU of the Patient and Public Partner Council. I also sit on many committees at the MSSU and I am involved in research projects both with the MSSU and nationally across Canada. I am passionate about patient engagement and research, and that's why I enjoy doing presentations such as this to help educate and promote patient engagement. So although we come together from many different places to take part in the Fibromyalgia Community Conference, I would like to acknowledge that the land I live on is Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the Treaties of Peace and Friendship, which Mi'kmaq peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. In Nova Scotia, Canada, we are all treaty people. So I'd like to take a moment to talk about FAC, and I thank Melissa for introducing me as being part of FAC. And I want to talk a little bit about how it began before I move on to the patient-oriented research part of the presentation. So the seeds of Fibromyalgia Association Canada were formed when two individuals had a phone call during COVID and discussed the fact that fibromyalgia as an illness did not have its own national association in Canada. Fibromyalgia was an add-on to other conditions, and very little attention was paid to people with fibromyalgia. From that phone call, 15 like-minded individuals came together for the very first meeting of FAC in February 2021. FAC has come a long way since that meeting, and today we are becoming a well-recognized national association for fibromyalgia in Canada. Researchers are reaching out to FAC from around the world, asking us to share their research and to help them recruit research participants for their studies. FAC advocated for Bill C-22, which is a Canadian government act to reduce poverty and to support the financial security of people with disabilities like fibromyalgia, and many of FAC's recommendations to the government were incorporated into the final bill. And on May 12, 2023, 133 Canadian buildings and landmarks lit in purple to help FAC raise awareness of fibromyalgia and Fibromyalgia Awareness Day. Proclamations were given in many towns and cities across Canada, declaring May 12th as Fibromyalgia Awareness Day. Well-known Canadian organizations recognized Fibromyalgia Awareness Week 2023, which was held in September, even though it's only the second year that that week has been held in Canada. So FAC is a national association, and it represents all of the fibromyalgia communities across Canada. We're committed to being a national association for all Canadians, regardless of where they live, what language they speak, and their accessibility needs. So with the help of volunteer translators, we're able to provide a bilingual English and French website. So if there are any Canadians listening to this and you're not already a member of FAC, you can sign up at the link on this slide. It is www.fibrocanada.ca/membership, and go to the bottom of the page and click Join Now. If that doesn't work for you, just email admin@fibrocanada.ca. So moving on to patient-oriented research. So setting the stage for my discussion today, this presentation is going to go through the who, the what, the why, the when and where, and the how of patient engagement in research or patient-oriented research. So throughout this discussion, I will cover who even is the patient, when is patient engagement or patient-oriented research, what is it? Why do we even need this? Can't we just keep doing things the same way we always have? And how are patient partners best incorporated into research? And then I'll talk about some more practical things by identifying leading practices in patient engagement and things to avoid. I will share some examples from my own experiences, and I will leave you at the end with some resources that might help you along the path of patient-oriented research. Some of my presentation is directed to researchers and some to patient partners. I also will mostly address Canadian information because that's what I'm most familiar with. But this can apply anywhere in the world because I know broken healthcare systems exist throughout the world. So, who is the patient in patient engagement? Everyone can be considered a patient at one time or another, but it is important to note that a patient who interacts with the healthcare system only infrequently will likely have a very different experience than does a patient with a chronic condition like fibromyalgia. A patient from a racialized community will have a very different experience than someone from the white community. And a patient who works within the healthcare system will likely have a different experience than someone who is not in the same privileged position. Experiences are entirely different for every patient. And that's why having more than one patient partner on a research study is so important, both to get different opinions and also to make your patient partner comfortable. So, who are the patient partners that become involved in health research? Well, I'm an example of a patient partner who is involved in research. I am a medically retired nurse with the last years of my career in geriatric nursing, focusing on dementia. And as life happens, my mother developed dementia, and I became her primary caregiver until her condition deteriorated and I could no longer provide the care she needed at home. So I had to put her into long-term care. I have lived with fibromyalgia and chronic pain for over 31 years. My daughter was diagnosed with fibromyalgia at the age of 8. My grandson has had all the symptoms of fibromyalgia since he was 6 and has struggled to get diagnosed. He's 17 and is still not diagnosed. He's been told he's had growing pains since he was 6 years old. He's now, as I said, 17 and is 6'3" tall and still has the same pain and all the other symptoms of fibromyalgia. So doctors and researchers, you have to listen to your patients and you have to get beyond misconceptions, like children cannot get fibromyalgia. This is true in your medical practice, and this is true in your research. I have told you this story because this is the background that formed my research interests, not just as a patient, but as a caregiver. And it makes a world of difference. The different experiences you have influences how you can influence a research study. So I first became involved in patient engagement by answering a newspaper ad looking for people with fibromyalgia to take part in a clinical trial. And just to note, Being part of a clinical trial is not patient engagement. But as a result of that clinical trial, I was asked if I could take part in a James Lind Alliance Fibromyalgia priority setting partnership that was being funded by the CIHR. I was asked because they wanted someone from the East Coast of Canada to balance their team. I was a nurse, a patient, a caregiver, so I checked off all the boxes. The James Lind Project involves patients every step of the way. And the James Lind Alliance is very interesting. So if you have some time, Google it, and you'll see that they truly practice patient-oriented research with different health conditions. So I was part of the original steering committee of this project. I helped write the surveys that went out to the people with fibromyalgia and their clinicians. And this survey that we developed asked what their priority research questions would be. If people with fibromyalgia and clinicians could decide, what would their priority research questions be? I helped analyze some of the data from the surveys. I was part of the process of first getting the survey's results down to 40 questions, and then down to the top 10 research questions that people with fibromyalgia and their clinicians would like to see researched. I was also part of the team who wrote and edited the research article that was published in the Journal of Pain. The James Lind process is research at the empowerment stage of the IAP2 scale, which I will discuss in a few minutes. This is the gold standard of patient engagement. Many patient partners have extensive experience either as a patient, a family member, or a caregiver. Others have been in part of the healthcare system in a professional manner for quite some time. We are a diverse group of people with an array of backgrounds and experiences, but all of us are passionate about improving the quality of research and thus improving the quality of healthcare in Canada and around the world. So patient-oriented research recognizes that patients have lived and living experiences of their health condition or conditions and their healthcare system. Patient engagement in research values this knowledge and engages patients as partners, connecting them with healthcare providers, decision makers, and others to conduct research that's relevant and applicable to improving the healthcare system. I learned many years ago that research that does not include the patient voice does not truly represent the community the researchers are trying to reach. So meaningful engagement requires authentic, timely, and mutually beneficial relationships between the patient and the research team. The word timely is very important because when researchers involve patient partners is key. Patient partners should be involved at the very beginning when the research team is identifying the problem and forming the research question. This is a really important point because what a research team identifies as a problem may not be seen as a problem by the people with the condition that the research applies to. So it's part of that nothing about us without us. Sometimes researchers are intimidated by the patient and their voice, but they definitely don't have to be. What the patient has to say is valuable and can make a positive difference in the researcher's work. So I'm going to speak first about relationships of patients and caregivers and families with their healthcare provider and compare that to research. So who is the expert in knowing whether a diagnosis is perfectly accurate? How will that diagnosis go on to affect the individual, their health, and their ensuing health care? Patients should have a say on their individual care from the very beginning with the diagnosis through to the outcomes of care. This is the great contribution of patients to doctors who are willing to listen to their patients. and this can be applied to research as well. So, who is the expert in knowing what the research team should be asking? How will the research go on to affect the individual, their health, and their ensuing health care? Patient partners should have a say in research that affects them right from the beginning through to the outcomes. This is a great contributions of patient partners to researchers who are willing to listen to their patient partners. My parents used to think that their doctor's words were law and not to be questioned. I was a nurse and I didn't agree because I was witnessing what my parents were actually going through. When I would tell them I disagreed with something their doctor had said, they wouldn't even listen to me. The doctor said it, so it must be right. So I thought my mom might be developing dementia, and I brought my concerns to her doctor. He had every excuse as to why she had her symptoms: depression, cardiac issues, loss of sleep, but not dementia. 10 years later, my mother died with Lewy body's dementia and Alzheimer's. Those days of just blindly accepting what a doctor says are gone. Patients are not so willing to let doctors dictate the way their treatment will go without input, nor are they as willing to see taxpayers' dollars go into research that is not relevant to them or their condition. Researchers, you have the opportunity to bring that voice of lived experience to your table in every research project you do as equal partners. Patient partners add value to research and will be responsible for improving research not only in Canada, but around the world. Engaging patients in research can change the 17-year cycle of getting research knowledge into practice or bench to bedside to a couple of years and sometimes even down to 1 year. And let me say that again. Right now, it takes 17 years to get research from the researcher to the healthcare system. With patient-oriented research, this can change. Patient partners can change this because they can get the information to their communities and their care providers as soon as the research is completed and published. So continuing on to the why question, if you notice on this slide, Canada and the United States are ranked amongst the highest or the top in the world for scientific impact of its health research. Canada has a high quality public health care system, a public university system, and dedicated clinical healthcare workforce. So clinical and health services research teams are distributed across universities, teaching hospitals, other centers, and involve many disciplines of research. Many groundbreaking studies have been conducted and led by Canadian researchers. And despite this research impact, we still have major problems with healthcare in this country, which only have been exacerbated or highlighted by COVID-19. So we have high impact research. So maybe we just need more research to improve the healthcare system. So what do you think? Well, it's not always the case that more is better, because as you can see by this slide, 85% of our research is wasted, which translates to $100 billion wasted each year. And that's one of the reasons I was drawn to patient-oriented research. This diagram shows the stages of research production, and what it demonstrates is that we have a huge problem with research waste, usually because the wrong question is asked. Sometimes it's because it's badly designed or the results are not reported, which in turn affects the ability to replicate the study and leads to more waste. These problems lead to a huge financial impact. This waste can be reduced by using patient-oriented research. So if you look at number one, The research questions asked, so who's asking those questions? Waste is created because often the wrong questions are asked with no input from the people the research affects the most. Patient-oriented research can fix that because patient partners know which questions should be researched better than someone without the condition being studied. So the avoidable flaws in the study design is a huge waste of research dollars. Having a patient partner on the team can help reduce this waste because they will be able to point out any biases or design flaws. And this surprised me: completed but unpublished research. If patient partners have taken the time to be involved in a research study, they'll push the research team to publish the results. It's amazing to me that 50% of research isn't even published. So, poor or unusable reports of research. Well, patient partners don't like to waste their time, and they will work very hard to ensure that the research they are part of is usable research. Patient-oriented research can reduce research waste. We need less research, better research, and research done for the right reasons. This all lines up with we need patient-oriented research. So if Canada has this high quality research impact that we saw a couple slides ago, we have lots of evidence that we do. So besides the waste in research, why do we still have problems in our healthcare system? So if you look at this, Valley 1 illustrates the gap between basic biomedical research, which is in the lab research, and getting it to the clinical science and knowledge stage that's usable by patients and their clinicians. Canada has a decreased capacity to translate the results of discoveries generated in the lab to the bedside or the care side. We aren't very good at that. And Valley number 2 illustrates the gap between clinical science and knowledge and health decision making and clinical practice. This valley represents the limited capacity to simplify, circulate, and use research studies more broadly into health research decision making and clinical practice, which means, in plain language, it is the limited ability of researchers to get their research to the people who need it. And once again, I'm highlighting that 17-year gap from research to practice. So we know we have a gap in implementing available evidence. And this gap, unfortunately, results in up to 50% of patients not getting treatments of proven effectiveness. 25% get care that's not needed or potentially harmful. So again, we need to move evidence into practice more quickly. It's financially imperative to allocate resources to be most effective and cost-effective interventions. So including patient partners in research studies will ensure a better return of investment in all research. What good is research if it doesn't help the people who need it, or it doesn't get to the clinicians who can use it to help their patients live with their conditions? All these issues that you've seen in this slide and the previous slide can be fixed using patient-oriented research. So this is the spectrum that I was talking about, the IAP2, or the International Association of Public Participation for Engagement. So they looked at engagement goals and how people or patients, communities were being used to help research. So while it's significant to think of patient engagement, making it to that empowerment stage, the collaboration stage is usually where we generally try to aim, knowing that even the collaborative stage is often difficult to obtain in our current research climate. So the informed stage on the far left is the we will keep you, the patient, informed, and is accomplished through fact sheets, websites, and open houses. This is not patient engagement or patient-oriented research. The consult stage is the we will keep you informed, listen to and acknowledge your concerns and aspirations, and provide feedback on how patient input influence the decision. And this will be through patient comments, focus groups, surveys, and patient meetings. Still not patient engagement or patient-oriented research. The involved stage is the we will work with you to ensure that your concerns and aspirations are directly reflected in the alternatives developed and provide feedback on how patient input influence the decision. This will be through patient workshops and deliberate polling. It's getting closer, but it's still not patient engagement or patient-oriented research. So collaborate. Collaborate is the we will look to you for advice and innovation in formulating solutions and incorporating your advice and recommendations into the decisions to the maximum extent possible. This will be through patient advisory committees, consensus building, participatory decision making. This is patient engagement or patient-oriented research and will involve having patient partners on research teams. And to move up to the empowerment stage means that what a patient partner decides will be implemented. And this will be through patient research and delegated decision making. This is the gold star in patient engagement, not often achieved, but always strived for. So there are many roles that a patient partner can play in research. Remember, patient partners, though, are much more than their illnesses. Researchers should especially remember this. Don't undersell the skills of your patient partners. They could have been data analysts in their pre-illness days. I've often heard from researchers that they only include patient partners in the parts of the research that they deem the patient partner is qualified for. And like I said, how do you know that if you don't know your patient partners? It's important. Patient engagement in every aspect of research will add valuable insights from patients' lived and living experiences. It will bring meaningful outcomes that could meet the patient partner's community's expectations, needs, and preferences. It can help reduce healthcare costs and improve dissemination of research findings. That means dissemination of research finding means getting the information out there to the people who need it the most. So who better than a patient partner to tell you what the priority of research for their community should be? Even if there are stages that they're not skilled in, they should still be included in that process. And you'll have, as researchers, you'll probably have other members of the team who are not skilled in certain areas as well. And you can include patient partners and teach them both how to do things like data analysis. Patient partners are important and valuable at every aspect of research, but two areas that patient partners excel in that I've already mentioned are getting the knowledge out there to other people with fibromyalgia and to the clinicians who look after them. And also the other area is recruiting participants. When you need participants for your research study, a patient partner can go to their community and they can find research participants. So they're very good at knowledge translation and in recruiting patient partners for studies. So one of the roles I took on my journey as a patient partner is with the CIHR's Institute of Musculoskeletal Health and Arthritis as a patient engagement research ambassador, or PARA, as I mentioned earlier. So the Canadian Institute of Health Research has 13 institutes that fall under them, and they all represent a different condition. So I I have fibromyalgia, so I fall under the musculoskeletal health and arthritis. So that's where I mostly do my work. And so as a para, I have enjoyed working with the Institute of Musculoskeletal Health and Arthritis. So the para group got together and we determined by various means that there was a gap in teaching resources for patient engagement or patient-oriented research. So we developed a course with 4 training modules called a how-to guide for patient engagement in research. So I'll give you just a brief overview of the modules. And if you want to learn more, the link will be at the end of the presentation in the resources. Taking each module, you'll get a certificate for each module. And when you complete all 4, you'll get a certificate for the course. The modules that the para designed are not disease specific. It doesn't matter what research is being done or what the condition is. They're really meant for any situation where patients and researchers connect to do research. These modules are based on best practice and gold standards in the area of patient engagement. So module number 1 is intended for everyone on the research team. It's a basic introduction to patient engagement in research. This module covers the what is patient engagement, why do we do it, what are the benefits, and how do we do it. So this first module is based on building a foundation before we move on to the research process. So module number 2 has 2 parts, one for the patient partners and the other for the researchers. So module 2A is intended for patient partners, and it covers the role as a patient partner and their involvement with the research team. This module makes sure the patient partner understands the research process. We wanted patient partners to be as educated and comfortable with the research process as possible. Module 2B, designed for the research team, is about supporting patient partners throughout the research process. We wanted to identify what research looks like with patient partners on the team and how researchers can support patient partners around the table. The module also discusses challenges for research teams that are unfamiliar with patient engagement. Module number 3 is once again intended for all members of the research team and is about setting up a research project for successful partnership. This is what we all want, successful patient engagement in research. The more involved a patient partner is on a research team, the more influence they'll have on the outcome. So some of the aspects that come up in this module is what works, what doesn't. When things don't work, what do you do to get the project back on track? Module 4 is again a divided module with both parts discussing some of the practical aspects of being on a research team. So module 4A requires a patient partner to understand the practical aspects of being on a research team and to identify resources that might be valuable to support them in research projects. For the other team members, for the other members of the research team, module 4B will help researchers and the research team to understand all the questions the patient partner might have. There's a different tone and flavor to the meetings when you have someone on your team with lived or living experience of the condition you are researching. It's up to the researcher to set the tone for the team to make sure everyone's well-being is being listened to and addressed. So, speaking to the researchers, you need to break out of your comfort zone. Regardless of the role, we are all comfortable with what we're used to. So we need to break down this barrier of us versus them, which is predominant in different parts of life, but especially in the research world. We all have room to improve in our relationships, but this is especially true in the research world. Treat people with respect and enable time and space for your patient partner's contributions. Ensure you have space on your research team for more than one patient partner. both for more lived and living experience, and also so your patient partner is more comfortable on the research team. And just to point out, it's very important to include EDIA principles in your research project. EDIA principles are equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility principles. So when you're engaging, once again, this is to the researchers, when you're engaging patient partners, the number one thing is make sure your patient engagement is not tokenism. Make sure you're not just checking a box to get funding or checking a box so you can say that you practice patient-oriented research. I was asked to be on a research team, and it was pretty obvious from the start that I was asked because the funder of the project insisted on patient engagement being part of the project. It was a two-phase project, and the first phase was already completed without patient engagement. And I was told by the researchers interviewing me that it was well done and there was no need for patient engagement. And the only reason I was being interviewed was because the funder insisted. Now that's blatant tokenism. Needless to say, I did not accept the position. I have also been involved when tokenism was not quite so blatant, but it was still there. So an example of the not so blatant tokenism was when a researcher asks for your ideas, but they're never incorporated into the research. So an example was when I was asked to read and approve a study and approve the questions. And when I said that one of the questions was worded in a way that the community they were surveying might take offense, I was told that the survey questions wouldn't be changed. So what was the point of my reading the survey when my opinion wasn't valued and nothing was changed? So patient partners are very, very good at knowing when they're tokens. So make their role meaningful by listening to them and not just asking their opinion, but actually incorporating their opinion into the study. Ensure there are no hierarchies within the research team. Everyone should be on a first name basis. Leave your ego outside the door and don't use titles for people. Ensure that patient partners are directly put onto the agenda so they feel they have a place to share their thoughts and they come prepared to speak at the meeting. Make sure the patient partner understands exactly what the project is and what it's going to entail. Make sure all the team members are introduced at each meeting. Remember, you may know your team, but your patient partner may not. And keep in touch with your patient partner. If there's going to be a lull in the project, make sure they know that so they don't think they've been forgotten. It often takes a long time for the research ethics board to give approval. And if patient partners aren't aware that that's the stage the research is at, they may just feel like you've forgotten them. I've been involved in projects where it's taken 6 months or longer to receive the approval from the research ethics board. And in that time, I've never been contacted. So I did think that I had been forgotten. I thought maybe the research had fallen through or they just decided they didn't want a patient partner. So when I was contacted, I was surprised to see that the research was still happening. And that's not the way it should be. That doesn't happen to the research team. They're aware of what's happening at every step of the way. So patient partners should be aware as well. And as I mentioned before, it is best to have more than one patient partners so you get a variety of ideas. So I would like to thank the Fibromyalgia Community Conference again for the opportunity to present today and share my knowledge around patient engagement and patient-oriented research. I really enjoy doing these presentations because I like educating. And I really do believe this is the way research should be going. So I like to do these presentations and share that knowledge. So I'm ending my presentation with a list of resources that I had promised that will help you embark on your patient engagement or patient-oriented research movement. And if you notice that final resource or the training modules that I was discussing that the CIHR para group had developed, I believe that education is the key to making patient engagement in research or patient-oriented research a reality. So thank you everyone for your interest and attention.
Thank you so much, Trudy. Oh my goodness, this is fantastic to have you here and presenting and very important information. And I know other people feel the same. We have fascinating. I know this is Anna's background too with this. Love the presentation. This is important work. This is important work for all of us here in collaboration. You mentioned teamwork. And also you mentioned um, with barriers. And so I'm going to start asking the question, but I want to just give shout outs to everybody that's cheering you on here. There's Sharon, welcome, fabulous presentation. Thank you so much. I know Margaret has a good background too. We need to talk to her more. Maggie, hello. Yes, great presentation, Trudy. Everybody's enjoyed it. And I know Danielle has a lot of questions for you too.
Yeah, first of all, this is incredible. I didn't know this existed, so definitely something I'm gonna be looking into. I work with the rare disease community and support fibro as well, and I know something that I hear a lot is people dropping out because of accessibility issues. So is that something that patient partners can help with when, like they're recruiting, or because like there's accessibility issues with like maybe wheelchair access, or even like when you send out a questionnaire and people who are hard of sight, something like that. Like, is that something a patient partner could help with?
Yes, it is actually. And I notice in some of the research projects that we get sent to FAC, you look at the surveys and it says this is 50 minutes long, or this is 30 minutes long, or this is an hour long. And if a patient partner had been part of that research, they would have made sure that the accessibility to that research study would have been addressed, because I don't know about you guys, but I can't sit and answer a survey for an hour.
Yeah.
And so it's great if it saves, but not all of them save. You can't always go back to them, do a little bit. And accessibility is huge. And it should be accommodated in every aspect. So yes, patient partners can help with that, because sometimes I'll mention something like that survey when I'm on a research project, is make sure you don't make this too long. And they never thought of that. So if a patient partner's on there that has a difficulty uh, with their sight, and they can make a point of saying, I can't read this, or I need large print, or I need it so it's read to me. All of those things can happen, and it's patient partners that can make those happen. Because I'm not saying researchers don't pay attention to that. I'm saying they're very busy. They're very busy. It's very difficult to apply for grants, and sometimes they just don't think of it. And that's why it's important to have people on there who aren't as busy and can take the time to think about those things that might seem like little things to a researcher, but they're huge to the people that the research is intended for.
Absolutely, and I have done that before, like you're saying there, it says it's like an hour, and I'm like, "Okay, I have an hour," but then I end up dropping out of the
Mhm.
trial or whatever because I'm like, I can't do this," and it's not savable, so definitely making them where you can save and, later, that's absolutely something that would, I think, make a lot of people be able to finish and not drop out, and I know that's something that frustrates a lot of researchers, so I did want to ask people that would begin becoming a patient partner. how do you recommend them learning about research and I guess like how to read papers and things like that? Because I read papers in my spare time. That's just like something I love to do. I'm a science nerd, but if you don't know, I guess if you're not that into research or just learning about it, how do you recommend?
Well, if you want to get involved in patient engagement and research, I would recommend doing the modules that I talked about. They really do help. Um, and we've really gotten a lot of positive feedback from those, and anyone in the world can take those. So they're not specific to Canada. I also would suggest there's a as more patient partners get involved in research, more patient partners are actually writing papers about how to understand research, how to understand plain language summaries, and more pressures being put on researchers to write plain language summaries. And so I would recommend Googling actually how to educate yourself on reading research papers. It's very important. And I know if you read them in your spare time, you must notice sometimes, because I do, that you look at it and you think, wow. Well, I look at it and think, because I'm involved in patient engagement, say, wow, if a patient had been involved in this research, this might have been set up a little differently. Like sometimes they don't have enough controls, or they
Uh,
don't have enough groups in the research. And you look at it and you think, but you didn't check this part, like you didn't, uh, if you're testing an instrument and a drug, for example, and you only use the placebo for the drug, and yet you use, say, some type of stimulation. If you use that and the drug, that and a placebo, but you don't do it with just the drug, then you don't know. You're not getting the whole story. You don't know. Maybe the drug would have worked the best, but you didn't test it by itself. So, patient partners, I think, would think about those things, and sometimes I wonder why researchers um, why they don't actually. So why they don't think of that, but and that's why patient engagement is so important. It helps researchers actually write some of their studies, even if the study's done perfectly. It helps having someone there who says, "What does this mean? How can you write that so I can understand it?" Because then we'll start getting research that's valuable to both the patient and to their clinician. I was at a conference one time, and a researcher was talking, and I put my hand up and I asked him if he could. That I told him I couldn't understand exactly what he was saying, because he was using. It was like he was using a different language, and I asked a doctor who was sitting next to me, "Did you understand what he just said?" And she said, "No, I have no idea what he just said." So clinicians need help reading research papers too, and if they were written in plain language, then some of that research might get to our doctors faster and might be valuable to the healthcare system.
wow, yeah, that would be great to be able to do that.
Well, this conversation is super important and something like we talk about a lot. It just encompasses everyone worldwide of just information and
Mhm.
getting involved with research from this perspective. Because living in the past of being, I would read a lot of research, and even being bedbound at the times, understanding it, I never imagined that I could possibly be involved with research, because I felt that there was so many barriers. You might have to have a PhD, an MD. So I like that we're breaking down these barriers and involving so many of us that are enthusiastic. And I do want to bring Anna back up to the stage. I strategically set this panel up the way that I did because I know what's going on. So let's bring her back up to the stage and let's dive in and have some engaging discussions here.
Hi, Trudy. Oh, this
Hi.
is so fun to meet you and to hear your presentation. I'm working with these questions in Norway in the Norwegian Rheumatism Association, and I'm also a patient research partner. And I loved your presentations. I'd love to discuss more, but I wondered about your experience with the James Lind Alliance method, specifically because the slide you showed about research waste, how 85% of medical research is avoidably wasted. That was an article series in the Lancet, right, around 2012. And that's what dove me into research too, because it's like, oh shit, like they're never going to solve things. Like they're never going to figure this stuff out, like with chronic pain. They're just doing research without, caring if it changes anything. So when did you get involved with JLA, and have you done any JLA priority setting process on fibromyalgia specifically?
Yes, yes, the project I was involved in 2014 was specific to fibromyalgia. And I think it was that project that made me realize how much our research dollars are wasted. Because I thought, wow, like these are questions they're asking. And the JLA, I can't say enough good about them. And because they really connect with the patient, they set up processes with the Alzheimer's community, with the transplants community, with kidney disease. They set up projects with all of those and they all decide, and it's the patients that decide and their doctors that
Yeah,
decide what are the most important questions that need to be researched. And
exactly.
yeah, the multiple
Yeah.
myeloma just did one here in Canada, the Multiple Myeloma Society. And the top two questions were funded by the Multiple Myeloma Canada.
Mm,
So that's important when you do a James Lind Alliance project. It's important to have funding in place so when you get those questions, they can actually be researched.
yeah.
And with the fibromyalgia one, they kind of sat idle for a long time because research funding wasn't set aside for those questions. And
Mm,
so FAC is actually our research committee. We're taking a look at every one of those top 10 questions and we're doing research to see how many of these have actually been researched outside of Canada. And we're happy to say that most of them have been. So,
exactly.
but the JLA is fantastic.
Yeah, I was lucky to meet Sally Crow, who was one of the patients involved in making it, and she mentored me through the process of doing that project here in Norway in the musculoskeletal field. There was a lot of tokenism here. Like the researchers, they changed the system here so the researchers could only get funding after 2016 if they had a plan for patient involvement. And so all of a sudden they were calling us like at 8 p.m. in the evening, us who work in the patient organizations and are experienced patient researchers, saying, "Hey, will you sign this contract saying that you support my project?" And we weren't involved at all. It was all tokenism.
Hmm.
And that's why we flipped the script by doing that JLA process. And Sally was amazing in like teaching me how to, basically get through the bullshit from the researchers and stand there and dare to be like really direct and say, no, this is not actual engagement, and let's change this. And
Well,
it's working. Like in Norway, it's really made a huge difference because I was invited then to speak to the funders, like the main research funding organization, and they said this is the gold standard. This is what we want you to research now. So it's not my words, it's not my organization saying it. Now it's the research funders saying it.
yes, and that's happening in Canada too. And which is great because actually, my thought for research when you're doing research, why wouldn't you do patient oriented research? Like, I don't understand why you
You want
wouldn't.
your work to count, right?
Yes,
We
yes,
would
you
think
do.
so.
Well, we would, but I've seen some research out there that I question that on, and that tokenism happens here too. We still get phone calls, and they've asked you to be part of their team, and you hear nothing from them, and then all of a sudden they want letters of support, and they want you to sign a paper saying you were involved.
Involved.
Yes,
Exactly. Yeah.
that
Ooh,
happens here too.
sneaky, sneaky. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's great to do that kind of a process where we're more. I think we also have to pool our resources as patients, because we have limited amount of energy. Like where we put our spoons, where we put our energy, it has to be something that actually counts. We can't spend our energy on our pain-free time or our functioning time on being these token patients to support some ambitious researcher that just wants a lot of funding for their insignificant paper. Sorry, I'm a bit, if I'm gonna do something with my spoons, I want it to be something that matters.
I agree. And something that I've only just realized recently, like in the last month or so, is I am co-author on quite a few studies because I've been involved in quite a bit of research. But interestingly enough, except for the James Lind, none of that research is on fibromyalgia. I'm involved in a lot of dementia research and health systems kind of research, but it's what I learned just recently is that usually when you're writing a journal article and you're there and you're editing it and you're helping, but what's in there is just a comment that patient partners were involved. And I've only realized recently that what should be in that paper, according to the BMJ, which is the British Medical Journal, should be a description of how the patient partners were involved.
Mm,
So I've been involved in what I thought was great patient engagement, and then I realized that it's not totally because they haven't put us even in their journal article.
mm,
So
yeah.
just the same way that they describe how the process worked for the research, they need to describe how the patient partners' input worked for the researchers.
Yeah.
So
And then we need to prioritize putting our energy into getting more funding for fibromyalgia research because this is so underfunded, right?
mhm,
And a lot of the fibromyalgia research is going into these biopsychosocial studies, which are great too, but like so much is going into why do only women over 40 suffer, like become disabled from fibromyalgia? We tried to motivate them to try harder to get back to work. It's that kind of research. And they take the research funding for fibromyalgia, and very little is going towards things that the fibromyalgia patients actually want.
exactly.
I'm sure you know
Exactly.
all about that. Yeah.
Yes, and that's the same in Canada. There are very, very few lab research projects looking for biomarkers. There's very few in
And
Canada.
actually
And
taking the disease seriously. They don't even call it a disease, right? Yeah.
yes. So, I mean, we have research on things like how do you cope in the north with fibromyalgia, that sort of thing. And it's like probably the same way we do in the south, right? So, and I agree with you. A lot of research dollars go into that sort of thing, and they don't have patient partners involved.
Mm-mm.
So that's a big thing that they don't. So we definitely need more research money. We need a, s- a real strong community push to get funders to specifically say, this has to be biomedical research and make
Mm.
it count.
One thing we did, I'm sure we're over time now, but one thing my association did, the Norwegian Rheumatism Association, has 30,000 members, and that's pretty big. Like in US numbers, that would be 1.8 million patients, like compared to population size. So we're quite heavy, like when it comes to pulling the political discussion. And what we did was to collect money and invest money in having a professional research bureau do a health economical analysis of what our illnesses were costing society. And then we used that, the documentation of how much it was costing society in terms of qualies and dollies like disease of disability adjusted life years, etc., and what that was costing in kroner and dollars every year for the Norwegian society. We took that to the research funders and say, hey, look how much these diseases are costing the Norwegian economy, and still they're only getting 3% of the research funding. Let's change that. And then they started listening to us. And that was in a way more effective and cheaper than just sort of knocking on doors and saying, listen to us.
That's a great idea. Something
In
else
their
about
language.
and I know we are over time, but something else that I notice in research that bothers me is ageism. And I'm starting to notice more and more they're putting restrictions on how old you can be or how young you can be for fibromyalgia research. So, it's kind of like disability when in Canada, when you turn 65, you lose your disability and you go on a senior's benefit, which is not as much as the disability benefit. So it's like when you turn 65, you no longer can take part in research, and I just wonder, do they seriously think when you're 66, your fibromyalgia got cured or what? So, and yeah, so that bothers me that I see a lot of ageism in fibromyalgia research.
I love this conversation, and I know we could talk for hours to continue, which is why we probably should talk for hours at some point and come up with solutions on collaboration. So I really love what's happening here. I know Danielle is too, because when in March we're going back to Capitol Hill and asking congressional leaders to open up funding at the NIH, if you're looking for the United States, we need the collaboration and support and the knowledge shared so that we can implement this too when it comes to fibromyalgia research in the United States. We were successful this year to get a line item, so we're inching closer to increasing that funding. But I think utilizing the knowledge and being able to be mentored by both of you would be sincerely like an honor for us to know and have this training available for other people all around the world. Because if we're working together all around the world to push the system, eventually they're gonna like come to our side and get researchers excited. So thank you so much for joining us today, both of you. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I think we're gonna have to have many, many talks in the future.
Oh, look at this. She stole the words right here of what I definitely think it deserves attention more and more. And Trudy, thank you for igniting this conversation and all the work that you're doing and supporting all the work that we're doing too continuously. So I just appreciate everybody here on the panel. I know we're going to start a new panel in a separate stream too. So thank you, Trudy and Anna, for being here. Please, we'll connect with them. We'll add all the information to the description, but this isn't the last time you will hear from them also. So thank you both.
Bye.
Bye.
And Danielle, we made it through another day. We're halfway through and we have more content coming up for all of our fibromyalgia friends out there. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please be inspired, lean into all of this. I know we're going to be creating a lot more content in 2024 to help people and get this information out there. Tomorrow we have presentations by Michelle from Turning Pain into Strength. She has an incredible journey and a lot of advocacy to share tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, followed by Julie, who has a book out called Chronic Illness at Work. She has an HR background, so she's going to give us some accommodation tips, a lot of information on living the work life with fibromyalgia and other chronic illness conditions. We will have special screenings of caregiving with Nikki and Quentin Lott. They have a special presentation they prepared for us. Shout out to Nikki at Heart, Faith, and Strength. Later today, coming up right around the corner at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 noon, we have Anna and Lily presenting. So we're going to close this stream and you're going to jump over to wherever you're at right now on Facebook and YouTube or watching on the website. We're going to have their presentation and interview. You're going to learn about being a caregiver with multiple chronic illness conditions. You're going to learn about their journey with finding resources and getting a diagnosis for Lily, who's 13 years old, and how Anne drove through 4 states to get the information just that she needs. and they joined us in Capitol Hill. Danielle, you had a chance to work with some of the sessions with the congressional leaders. They've gotten proclamations. So they're going to talk more about their advocacy work with us as well.
Yeah, definitely go check it out. And the content does not stop this year. We'll keep it rolling. So just keep checking us out.
Well, we have Thursday, so then Friday we have a full long lineup of everybody coming out. So Veteran Voices for Fibromyalgia will be here on Friday. We have some great speakers. You're going to talk about pediatric pain in the morning. LDN and cannabis is going to come up as a discussion. I know we get a lot of questions on LDN as well in our community. Wendy is going to be presenting too on eating with intent and a lot of health coaching information. So good stuff. Anquinette will be here tomorrow, and she'll also share her inspiration and hope from Freddie J's Fibro Fighters and her organization in Michigan. We love the work Anquinette is doing. She's also participated in advocacy and hopefully will be joining us in March. So thank you, everyone. Please stay tuned. And I appreciate everybody allowing me the time to take my midterm exams yesterday and going through. We are celebrating everybody's work and coming together. There she is, Pretty in Pain podcast. Follow that channel. We'll see more of her tomorrow. She's prepared an amazing, inspirational video for us to share with all of you too. We love working with her, and she's definitely supporting all our community members with her patient services. Yay! So thank you again. We have everybody tuning in from around the world. We are going to go be with Anna and Lily. So take a short break, get some snacks, do a quick stretch. Remember, we got to do our fascia stretches, everybody. Don't forget that. And we will see everybody soon. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.